The president today stepped up his attacks on an unsigned essay criticizing his leadership. He called for Attorney General Jeff Sessions to find out who wrote the piece in the New York Times, and he raised the possibility of legal action against the newspaper. Mr. Trump spoke off camera to reporters while traveling aboard Air Force One.
I think it's a disgrace that somebody can do that, and I think it's more disgraceful that the New York Times would do it. But that somebody is allowed to do that is it's very sad commentary. Jeff should be investigating who the author of that piece was, because I really believe it's national security.
The New York Times responded that the president's demand for an investigation would constitute, quote, a blatant abuse of government power. Former Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos was sentenced today to 14 days in prison for lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russians. Prosecutors had asked for a 6-month sentence. Papadopoulos was the first person to plead guilty in the special counsel's Russia probe. Former President Obama aimed sharp criticism at President Trump today as he called on Democrats to vote in the midterm elections. He named his successor in a speech at the University of Illinois, but said the trouble goes even deeper.
In the end, the threat to our democracy doesn't just come from Donald Trump or the current batch of Republicans in Congress or the Koch brothers and their lobbyists or too much compromise from Democrats or Russian hacking. The biggest threat to our democracy is indifference.
At a campaign stop in North Dakota, President Trump dismissed the criticism. He said, "I watched it, but I fell asleep." We'll hear more of Mr. Obama's remarks later in the program. The anti-establishment surge in Democratic primaries has been stopped for the moment in Delaware. Veteran U.S. Senator Tom Carper easily won renomination on Thursday. He defeated first-time candidate Carrie Evelyn Harris, who had tried to paint Carper as out of touch. In Japan, the death toll rose to 18 a day after an earthquake rocked the northern island of Hokkaido. Rescue workers searched homes destroyed by a landslide in the town of Atsuma. At least 24 people were still missing. Officials also say fully restoring power to the region will take at least a week. Back in this country, part of a major West Coast highway, Interstate 5, remains closed in California as a wildfire burns out of control. The Delta fire broke out Wednesday near the Oregon state line. It is now spread across 38 square miles. Officials say the section of I-5 will stay closed through the weekend. The August U.S. jobs report is out, and it shows continued strong hiring. The Labor Department says U.S. employers added a net of 201,000 jobs last month. At the same time, the unemployment rate held steady at 3.9%. That's near the lowest in 18 years. Average hourly wages were up nearly 3% from a year ago, just enough to keep pace with inflation. The good jobs news failed, though, to boost Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 79 points to close at 25,916. The Nasdaq fell 20, and the S&P 500 slipped 6. Shares in automaker Tesla fell 6% after its CEO, Elon Musk, smoked marijuana on a live online show. And the company's chief accounting officer resigned after just a month on the job. Still to come on the NewsHour, we wrap up the week's coverage of Judge Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing. Iran, Russia, and Turkey discuss what could be the last major offensive in Syria's civil war. How laws in some U.S. states impede access to abortion, and much more.